FYI, I'm not good at talking in front of people, but I'll make it work. So, so I was raised in the Bahamas in a very religious Bahamian household. My mother was involved in various ministries in her church. As a child, my mom took my brothers and I to church events every single night, every night, Monday through Sunday. We didn't have a choice whether or not we were going. It was mandatory. When I was about 10 years old, the pastor asked who wanted to be baptized. It was baptismal Sunday. After listening to a 2-hour sermon on burning in hell, I knew that I didn't want to go there. So I went up to the altar, said a prayer, and was baptized later that day. I thought that being baptized was all it took to avoid going to hell, so I continued living in ignorance. Transitioning into my early teen years, I went to church religiously and was involved in a lot of church activities, but I did not know Christ for myself. My mother did her best to show Christ in the home. She read the Bible and prayed with us every night. But my father was the complete opposite. He was physically aggressive towards my brothers and I. We got beaten with switches, cords, sticks, iron boards, just to name a few. He was verbally abusive to my mother. I witnessed my mom constantly being called derogatory names and degraded. The verbal abuse evolved into a physical altercation when my father attempted to assault my mother, but my brother intervened and was physically beaten and thrown out of the house. At 15 years old, witnessing so much dysfunction and a lack of love in the household, I did not feel accepted in my own home. I hated my family dynamics. I became rebellious towards my parents. I often ran away from home, slept in bushes, abandoned cars, and abandoned homes. I desperately sought love and accepted that I did not get at home. So I joined a gang. My new family became drug dealers, gangsters, and murderers. I felt safe and accepted around them. However, my troubled life got me arrested and sent to a juvenile detention center. A few days after I got released, several of my friends and I were hanging out under a tree on my friend's porch, smoking, drinking, and playing dominoes. As we were enjoying the night, having fun, I thought that I should leave because it was getting late. So I said goodbye to my friends and left to go home. As I was opening my door, I heard rapid gunshots coming from the direction that I had just left. But I did not think anything of it since gunshots were normal in my neighborhood. A few minutes later, there was a lot of commotion outside, very loud screams. So I went outside and noticed people gathering at my friend's house. I ran there and found 3 of my friends lying on the porch in a pool of blood. 2 of them were already deceased, and I watched as my other friend took his last breath. I then heard groaning sounds coming from the inside of the house. That's where I found 2 other friends. One was barely alive, and the other one was deceased. I lost 4 of my friends that night. I was overcome with emotions. I felt confused, helpless, and extremely angry that I was not able to protect them. That night, my life went downhill. My heart was extremely hard. I got involved in many criminal activities. I became a drug dealer at the age of 18 years old. My criminal behavior finally caught up with me, and I was facing charges that would have landed me in prison for many, many years. Somehow, by God's grace, the charges were dropped, and I was set free. I knew that I wanted to change my life, but I just didn't know how. A few years later, I was dating a young lady, and she started going to church and decided that she was going to change her life. So she invited me to come along with her. And of course, being a good boyfriend, I did. During that service, the pastor singled me out in the middle of his sermon, laid his hands on me, and said that God had a calling on my life. I'm not sure what happened that night, but I left believing what he said. I started to read my Bible and continued going to church. but I had very little to no power to change my lifestyle. As I was trying to figure out how I was going to clean up my life and get out of the drug business, I gave a significant amount of money to someone that I thought I could trust to start a legal business. But this individual stole the money and then avoided me. This betrayal caused me to become extremely angry, and I planned to take his life. In fact, I was determined. I knew that what I planned on doing was wrong, and I broke down. I remember praying to God, begging him to help me to change. It was at this point I was certain that I could not continue living the way I was. After crying out to God, my nephew came to a liquor store where I had worked to check up on me and told me that he started studying the Bible with some men. He asked me to come with him to the Bible study, and I refused. In fact, I tried to persuade him not to go. For the next several days, he kept asking me to come, and I was extremely annoyed with him. One evening, as I was getting off, he came by and said that if I came with him one time, he'll never ask me again. Well, that sounded like a good deal. So I agreed. So as I went, I sat in the study and listened while they studied the Bible with my nephew. As they were reading the scriptures, I was amazed of what I was hearing. I never knew that these scriptures were even in the Bible. Following the study, one of the brothers asked me if I would like to study the Bible, and I agreed. I started studying a few days later with a few brothers and started noticing a significant change in my life. I went to church, and everyone was engaged in singing. I have never experienced anything like this before. My life started to turn around. I took my Bible to the liquor store where I worked and started convincing customers to stop getting drunk. I opened the Bible and I shared with anyone that would listen. From that moment, I felt that I had a purpose working there, and it was not selling alcohol. I also reconciled with my parents and started to become a change in the community. As my life was positively progressing, I continued to study the Bible. However, there was a conflict between a brother and I that made it difficult for me to continue meeting with them. I made up my mind that I would never return. The brothers would reach out to me, but I ignored all their calls. However, I continued to read the Bible on my own. Every day, the Spirit would convict me to go back to church. After 2 weeks, I finally went, reluctantly. I continued to study the Bible with the brothers and worked out the issue that I had with the brother. We became great friends. I now fully understood what it meant to be a disciple of Jesus. And on March 9, 2009, I was baptized into Christ. Amen. After my baptism, I had a burning desire to help people that were just like me. And so I got a job as a correction officer and started a prison ministry where it started out with just a few inmates and it turned into something big. I went from being an advocate of violence, drugs, and immorality to being an advocate for Christ. Out of all of my friends that lived that lifestyle with me, there's only 2 of us alive today. It's me and the other guy. He's serving multiple life sentences for multiple murders, including my 4 friends that died. I don't know why God chose me to save me. I really don't know. But for whatever it is, I know that it's something greater than me. I just want to encourage you guys with that today. Thanks for listening.